Welcome to the West Midlands version of Forgotten Limited's Q&A. I know they've done others around the country. I hope we can step up to the mark as well tonight. And I'm very pleased to welcome Gina Broadhurst, who, along with her colleagues, Keith, Shirley and Tracy, some of whom are on the line, has been really leading this campaign for about 9 months now. So an incredible effort alongside doing their day jobs as well. I'm Andy Street, Mayor of the West Midlands. I'm just going to say a few words, then I will pass to Gina, and then we're going to hear from 3 case studies from across the region, from Angela, from Ed, and from Maria. And then once we've heard from the 3 of them, I'm very pleased to say that the CEO of the Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce, Paul Faulkner, will also add his voice to this piece as well. And then after a brief summing up, we'll have any questions there may be from journalists. So that's the sort of running order for this evening. Just a very brief introduction from me then. Of course, I've already thanked Gina for what she is doing and the campaign that's being led. From my point of view, the situation is very clear. That many people would say, and I would include myself in this, that the government have put huge resources on the table to support much of business through the pandemic. But there's been a part of business, those represented on the call tonight, who for some inexplicable reason have not had appropriate support. So what we are doing today is lending our voice to that campaign that they should have appropriate support. For me, it's not a first here. If I look back at the correspondence which they made me do in preparation for tonight, I first raised this with the Chancellor right back in April. And indeed, some of the latest things I've done have also highlighted this in terms of the lobbying. And I'm pleased to say I had a very constructive discussion with Jessie Norman, MP, a Treasury Minister, who I know you've put your latest thinking to recently. So I am optimistic that there is real engagement in the Treasury with the issues at stake. So I'm going to take no more of the airtime and pass straight over to Gina just to introduce her campaign. Gina, the floor's yours.
Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate that. So I represent the Forgotten Limited campaign team, but you made a really important point there. We are absolutely a team of individuals who are pulling this wagon and have been for many months now. The campaign started, it's a grassroots organisation. It was founded by myself and another business owner, a complete stranger, limited company directors who were floundering in the wake of COVID and the lockdown and wondering how our businesses were going to survive. We represent 2 million small limited companies that are trading across the UK, and there's 7.5 million employees. So it's a serious business. You know, this is a lot of jobs and livelihoods at risk. We're not directors. I mean, we are in the truest sense at Companies House, but we're cafe owners, hairdressers, plumbers, you know, gardeners, everyday people. And our businesses have been started on hopes and dreams, blood, sweat and tears, kitchen tables across the land, predominantly micro businesses, up and down Britain, the everyday people. And we're just looking for fair and equal support for our businesses to enable us to be here to power the economy out of this. So we've campaigned for 10 months now, and really from a campaign perspective, what I would say is that every MP listening to this really needs to think about and understand. So across the West Midlands Combined Authority, the MPs represented across your local authority need to think about the impact and the effects this is going to have on their constituencies forever, really. You know, the long tail of this is going to be considerable. And lending their voice to supporting our campaign and ultimately advocating for the DIS, as it's become known, which is the Directors' Income Support Scheme. It's a solution that we devised with a panel of experts. We enlisted a crack team of very knowledgeable people, and Rebecca Seeley-Harris, who is an expert in employment status and tax, wrote an incredible policy for us, which has gone direct to Treasury. We await a response. We have been awaiting a response for quite a while. So next time, Andy, you're chatting to Jessie Norman, please do remember to ask him to come back to us anytime soon. Would be great. SAYS 4 kicks in from February. It'd be lovely if the DIS could also launch in February, that would be great. But really what we want to see and understand is, the government should be backing a policy like the DIS. They should be wanting to support business, particularly as a Conservative government. They claim to be the party of business. Business is in their DNA. So let's see that support through the DIS. Or, happy for them to find an alternative solution. My overriding concern as this drags on is the impact on entrepreneurs of the future. Will people like Angela, Maria and Ed be here next year, the year after and the year after, starting new businesses? Or will they just simply, as they're coming up through uni, think, oh, that was a bit painful and difficult, now I'll go and do something else instead? That is what we want to avoid. We want to help be here to grow the economy and keep producing new business people of the future. So that's enough from me. I think I've set the scene quite well. And I think the most important thing now is to just hear from the real people who are experiencing this now, the business owners. So the first person I would like to hand over to is actually Angela. So Angela, I'm going to hand over to you. I know you're in Solihull, is that right?
Sutton Coldfield.
Sutton Coldfield. I'm so sorry. I've carefully wrote my notes and I've written them wrong. But over to you, Angela.
Thanks, Gina. I guess I was going to say that my story might be a little different, but I don't think it is actually, because back in 2018, I was offered a job as a contractor with an automotive manufacturer. The terms of the job were that I had to form a limited company. If I didn't form a limited company, I wouldn't be given the contract. I've been an employee all my life, all my working life, I've been an employee. And for me, I just thought this was another case of an employee job. So when they told me I've got to set up a limited company, I was sort of like a bit shocked because I've never done anything like that before. But obviously I wanted the job. So that's what I did. I set it up with some help from an accountant. I was actually told how much an hour I would be earning. I was told what hours of work I had to work. I was told how many days holiday a year I was allowed to take. And I worked under a manager who directed me in the work that I was doing. So effectively, you would say I was an employee in every sense of the word, apart from the fact that I didn't get sick pay, I didn't get holiday pay, and I had to pay my own tax. So it was sort of a bit strange for me to start off with. But as I said, the job was a job that interested me. Didn't pay huge amounts of money, but it was a job that interested me and it was close to home. So I did it. So as I say, that was 2018. And then towards the end of March last year, obviously we went into lockdown and I was asked to work from home, which I did. And then on the 1st of April, 5 to 6 in the evening exactly, I had an email through from the agency that I was contracted through to say, this has been your last working day. Please don't bother logging in tomorrow. There was no warning that this was going to come. There was just nothing. It was just, that was it, goodbye. And as you can imagine, I was just absolutely shell-shocked. I just thought, what am I going to do? I just really don't know what to do. And as I said, I'm not a business person. And of course, I knew that there was furlough, but I didn't think I could furlough myself. And my other thought was, well, if I do put myself on furlough, if I can do it, what about when we come out of lockdown? What am I going to do then? It was such a confusing time. And to have this bombshell dropped on me, I just didn't know what to do for the best. I really didn't. And I've been brought up with the ethos, I'm getting on a bit now, and I was brought up with work ethos that you work no matter what, so I just thought I need to try and maybe salvage and build a business out of this limited company that I've already got, that really it's not a proper limited company. But so I did. So when everybody was at home on furlough enjoying the nice weather and their gardens, I was on my laptop 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, desperately trying to think, what can I do? What business can I offer based on my past work experience? Build up my contacts on LinkedIn, try and get some engagement. And that was a horrendous time, because when you've not been on LinkedIn for years and you have to go back on there, it's like shouting into the wilderness because nobody knows you. And it's just, and to sit here all day long on your own with nobody to talk to and to not have any engagement on social media or anything, it's really hard. I have always been an extremely strong person. Nothing phases me. But 3 times last year I had a meltdown, and that nothing like that has ever happened to me before in my life. It was a really difficult time, you know. And obviously we came out of lockdown and then went back in again, and I've just spent the last 10 months just desperately I will jump on anything if there's an opportunity for some work, just absolutely anything. I've all the free training courses that are going, I've jumped on them, or, you know, all the networking sessions. I've just done everything. I guess I'm lucky now in that I have picked up a little bit of work, so I'm now earning £400 a month. That's my wages. I had a bounce back loan. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to pay that back. My husband had a little bit of savings, but he's self-employed as well. So, you know, he struggled as well. He's a painter and decorator. When we went into lockdown, he couldn't even go out and buy paint. So we had to live on that, you know, that little bit of money that he put away. So it's been a really, really hard time. It's been hard to become a business person from an employee because I had to set up a limited company. I'm not a businessman. I have no marketing experience, but all I can do is just keep fighting and clawing the best I can.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'd like to pass to our second case study if I can. Thank you very much, Angela. I'd now like to move to Ed Hollands. And Ed has a business called Driven Media, which is advertising on the back of all sides of trucks, which is a really unique proposition, and actually appeared on Dragon's Den, interestingly. So I'm going to hand over to Ed.
Hello, I'm Ed. I'm the founder of Driven Media, as Gina mentioned. My business is kind of a bit weird because it's always been growing for the 5-6 years we've been going. So we've actually only made profit once, and that was in the second year we're setting up. And it's not because the business is unviable, it's because everything we earn is going straight back into the business to grow even further. So if we roll back to January of this year, we were minimal debt. We were just about to hire our first employee. You know, we use a bulk of freelancers to do a lot of the work we do. You know, it's strong growth till February, and even if with the 6 months we had, we still doubled the year before's revenue. But the support has just been, you know, I'm grateful for what I've got, but compared to what you know, if I was self-employed, I'd have got a lot more. You know, the bounce back loan took a full one, and that did us till about the second lockdown. There's minimal furlough again, which I'm grateful for, because in the first one my wife didn't have a job because we literally just moved into this house. So every time I got my wages, it was, thank God I managed to get that out before the end of the month so I could pay the mortgage that we just got. It's you know, it's scary going from really minimal debt in the business to being to nearly 100,000, and okay, 50,000 of that is the bounce back loan. So if I did go pop, but that's still 50 grand I've got to find to pay people back that you just don't have. It's a viable business. We are eking through clients. I mean, you know, if we round back to December, we had nearly £250,000 that we thought we could get over the line. from the 5th of December, I'm going to be lucky if I get 10% of that over the line. And to put it lightly, we had a customer that on Monday was prepared to renew their whole fleet. We set a call up for 10 o'clock on that Tuesday, and she said, "Ed, I'm going to renew, but it can't be all my fleet anymore." And it's business like things like that that merely take the weight out of you, because every time we see a light at the end of the tunnel, it was September, January, etc. It seems to be pulled out from under us, and there's not a lot we can do. And if I went under, there'd be a huge knock-on, because there'd be the future jobs that I could provide in the future that I was so close to doing back in January. It's not just the leisure and hospitality industries that are affected. There's a knock-on through the system. It's about confidence. People don't tend to advertise unless they're confident about the next 3 to 6 months, let alone a year. How long can I keep it going? And my business is supported by our customers, so we'll keep eking along as much as we can. But a lot of support goes a long way, and it's not just rent costs. We couldn't get any grants, mainly because they're hidden in the local authority sites, so they're an absolute nightmare to find. And if you can find them, there's just so many hoops to jump through. And you've got no guarantee of success. So I found for my one, it's just, why would I bother going through for a third application if I'm unlikely to get it? We just need somewhere that we can go and say, this is the situation, how can you best help me? Because the LEPs and things like that are great at pointing you, but they don't actually say you're definitely eligible for this, or this could help you. It is soul destroying, because I started this business, got to a point where it was about to make a profit, and then it got taken away from me. And I've been hanging on ever since, and I'm going to try and hang on for as long as possible, because there is a business there, and we support a lot of hauliers now. It's going to cause a lot of collateral damage if I go under, and I'm just stuck to my laurels. I can't affect other people. If it's going down, I'm going to make sure that I try not to take anyone else with me. And it's at that point now where, do I stop? Do I stop now before it gets too big an impact to everyone else?
Thank you, Ed. Do excuse me jumping in. I have to just ask you where you're based. I know that Angela's in Sutton Coldfield. Where are you based, Ed?
Staffordshire.
Staffordshire. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Gina. I shouldn't be interfering. Okay.
No, you're not interfering. And Ed, you've made a really valuable point there. It's about the supply chain, and it's about the knock-on impact. Small business is connected to big business, and the ripples, it's like throwing a stone into a pond. The ripples are going to be felt everywhere from this. So let's move on to our third case study, which is Maria Erzen. Maria works in the events industry. She is a board member of ESSA, the trade body for the events industry. So I'm going to hand over to Maria.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me on this evening. My company, Solutions 2, we design and build stands and structures for exhibitions and events. At the beginning of 2020, we employed 28 people full-time and a number of freelance people. We occupy 2 units, which we rent in Minworth, Sutton Coldfield, roughly £40,000 square feet altogether, rateable value of £51,000 and £69,000 respectively. We've been trading for 20 years, and this year and 2020, last year, was forecast to be our best yet. Unfortunately, that all changed in March last year. We were loaded and we were ready to go for a large project at the NEC, worth roughly £250,000 to us. We got a call from our client informing us that due to COVID, the event was cancelling. That was less than 48 hours out from the event. A week later, we went into national lockdown, and our industry is the only industry, as far as I'm aware, that has remained closed ever since, and we've been unable to legitimately generate any income from exhibitions and events. We have availed ourselves of all the help the government had provided, making full use of the job retention scheme with our entire team on furlough. Unfortunately, we apparently do not qualify for the rates holiday, so we continue to pay nearly £6,000 a month on the 2 units that S2 haven't used since March. We applied for the first round of discretionary grants, but were told that due to our rateable values, we were not eligible. It was only thanks to Birmingham Chambers of Commerce that we were made aware that there was a second round and that we may be eligible for that. And Birmingham Chambers of Commerce put us in touch with the right people, and we were able to speak to them, find out exactly what we needed to do, what information we needed, and when to apply. And we were very grateful to then receive a grant payment in August, which covered 4 months of the rates that we had paid previously since we got into lockdown. We were given a go date for exhibitions opening of the 1st of October last year, and as Gina said, I am on the board and now vice chair of ESSA, so I know the hoops that the industry had to jump through to get this, including the All Secure standard and the pilot events. Unfortunately, without warning and less than 1 week's notice, the go date was withdrawn and we're back to square one. As a result, and having had no income and no real indication as to whether the industry may open again, we were left with the pretty traumatic decision to make 10 of our team redundant. And these are people that have been with us since the day we started, 20 years, they're family, they're not employees, they're family. In November, we applied for the ARG, and in late December, we did receive £3,000 from the ARG open and £1,600 from the ARG closed. But again, it was a welcome contribution, but it simply paid less than a month's rates. Unfortunately, the industry remains closed, and on a weekly basis, we're seeing events and projects that we have scheduled in from now through until 2021 cancelling. They're postponing to later in the year, or they're cancelling fully until 2021. We know that exhibitions will return, and we know that there is an appetite for live events, and with 20 years experience and a good reputation, we know that we are viable. We know that there's a future for us in this industry, but as a business, we need more support, and as individuals, we need more help whilst we're forced to close. We're just about to draw down on a £250,000 civils loan. It's a debt we didn't have 10 months ago. And if furlough ends in April, then we are going to have to look to make more redundancies, unfortunately. We're losing talent that we're desperately going to need when we get back, and the industry is losing talent. We're really grateful, like I said before, for the help that we have received as a business, but it's a business I own with my husband. And personally, as individuals, this situation has hit us hard. We're company directors. We pay ourselves through dividends with no income. We don't need to tell you what that means. We've already taken the maximum mortgage holidays. We're living off limited savings. And the really, really sad fact of all of this is that despite fighting for survival for the last 10 months, for our business, for our employees, despite knowing that there's a future in live events and that we've had a brilliant business for 20 years that's won awards in that industry, we may have to close anyway because we may be forced to go and find alternative employment ourselves. And that's to me, that's the saddest fact of all of this, is that businesses may close because directors aren't getting any help. And therefore, all that talent is being lost, all those businesses are closing. The impact that that's going to have on the government of unpaid loans, national insurance, it just beggars belief, really. Like I say, we're grateful for the help that we have had, but we do feel that as a business in this industry, we need more, and we need more help as directors too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Andy, do you want to say anything? No.
Of course, I should say. I thought I was going to say something after you. I was going to let you press on, but then I'll respond.
Okay. So, Maria, you talked about the support that you had from the Chambers of Commerce, which is great to hear. That gives me a beautiful segue to our next speaker, Paul Faulkner, who is the Chief Executive of Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce, is with us. I know he also has fingers in lots of other pies. I looked at his LinkedIn profile, which is absolutely incredible what he's working on and has worked on in the past. So I'm going to hand over to Paul and we can hear a few of his pearls of wisdom.
Well, yeah, thanks, Gina, and thanks, Angela, Ed, and Maria. You know, I think the three of you, and you know, with Gina's introduction, I think you've captured the reality and a lot of the challenges and the sort of the range of challenges that all sorts of businesses are facing really, really well. And I don't know about everybody else and those who are tuning in, but you know, it's hard to hear. And it's upsetting, isn't it? And it's, I think, that reality which drives all of us who are trying to make a positive difference. Because, you know, like so many through, you know, this awful pandemic, you know, you're hardworking individuals, you've got good businesses, and the challenges and the that you're now facing, the situation that you're in is through absolutely no fault of your own. And I think it's simply not fair, and that does create that sense of it's just hard to hear. I mean, you know, Andy said it right at the start, didn't he? You know, the support that the government has given has been unprecedented, and I think we're always careful and mindful to express that when we're talking or we're continuing to lobby. But you know, the fact is that this is an evolving situation. I suppose sadly it's already gone on longer than any of us would have hoped or thought or wanted back in March. And you know, we've all lived through the different milestones and the sort of corona coaster experience of the last sort of 10 months, and we're all desperately hoping, aren't we, that we turn a corner and you know, we're back to better times. And I suppose we know that it's going to be a long haul. Hopefully, you know, things with the vaccine, things will improve. But I think we've learned enough now in the last 10 months to know it's not just click our fingers and get back to it. It's going to be gradual. There's going to be more bumps and twists and all of the stuff that we don't even know yet that will come our way. And we will find, you know, I'm an optimist, we will get there, but it isn't going to be straightforward. And I suppose that's where, you know, I wanted to come along today and, you know, join the mayor and support all of the efforts, because we have to have as many voices singing, you know, about this to get some action, because we do need more support. Quite simply, we need more support in loads of different ways. It's not to say the amount so far hasn't been phenomenal and unprecedented, but we need more. And so it's not a criticism of what's been done today. We need more. We need it urgently. I was on a call with Andy earlier saying the same thing. You know, this has gone on so long now. People have been so resilient, and that's running out. The cash is running out. The mental energy is running out. The physical energy is running out, and sort of there isn't time to waste. And I know that we've heard that, oh, you know, that the budget at the start of March now being sort of pegged as a stepping stone when things will be looked at, and you know, it's not acceptable. It's not good. It's too far away. And in that time, there'll be too many individuals like those we've heard from who will have to make decisions that they don't want to make, which will have impacts and will leave scars, which will take a lot longer to heal than if we can find the additional support in the short term. We need longer term vision now and a plan. I mean, Maria mentioned about furlough there, and will it get extended again? And you know, it strikes me that where we are right now, you know, we're in a lockdown again, and we don't know when it's going to end. That's been clear today. We were hoping, you know, March or Easter, but we've got to, you know, the numbers from the NHS are awful right now, and so, you know, that's got to be our priority. We all get that, but therefore we've got to take a longer term horizon so that businesses can plan and have whatever small modicum of certainty right now. It will help, isn't it? And I think that, you know, be it furlough, be it some of the schemes around VAT deferrals, support business rates, etc., they've got to be extended. And why not look now? I mean, let's look at 2021. Let's extend them out. Yeah. And if, you know what, everything's great, come June, we can always roll them back. But I think that we're getting to a tipping point where there's more value to be had from giving longer term certainty. You know, it's not that people will get addicted to it and we'll need to wean them off, as we heard with furlough sort of back in the summer. I think that's disingenuous to pitch it that way. I think this is just about providing a small amount of certainty to businesses in a world where there's so much uncertainty. I think we need better communication as well now with government, and the lobbying has been so hard and so frustrating, and I feel Andy's done such a good job and taken so many messages, and Maria talking about the events industry, and Paul Tandy, the chief exec of the NEC. I was on a call with the business secretary with Paul back in the summer, and we were pitching, for allow us at the NEC to run some test exhibitions, some test conferences, to show for the whole industry that it can be done safely. And so you're talking to the people you need to talk to, and everyone's nodding, and you sort of feel, oh, great, we've landed the message here. It couldn't be any clearer. There was no one in between to muddy it, and yet nothing happened. And the point, Gina, that you said about the letter to Treasury, and you hadn't heard back yet, and it's got to be better now. We've got to be in this as a country. We know how hard it is, so it's not as though we're all expecting government or to come up with all of the answers on their own. That's where your DIS scheme, great, but as you said, hey, if there's something better, great as well. We're looking to just get through. It feels like this is an emergency situation, and I think that there's that disconnect right now, and that's where the sort of frustration that I think we all have is that we can see the pain, the emotion that's coming out from Angela and Ed and Maria and sort of everyone you're sort of reflective of today. So we've got to do more. Thanks, we'll get back to you in March. Just strikes me as not good enough now. But if you people want to help. Yeah, this isn't a criticism and it's not a political point. It's like you've got to work with us. And I think that really then it's just trying to push harder, and it's got to be now. And I think an event like today and having the support of Andy is what we need to do. We've got to shout as loud as we possibly can and make these differences. The chamber, we have been playing our part, and we will do our part. We're just one sort of small cog in the wheel, and we're an independent organisation there to represent businesses. So we'll try to shout as loudly and as constructively as we possibly can, and keep pushing and keep trying to help on individual cases. And there's a whole host of material that we've produced to do that. And I think now is the time, isn't it? We don't have time to waste. And like I say, just thanks to Angela, Ed, and Maria today for sort of articulating the challenge so effectively and so well.
Thank you, Paul. So I'm going to hand over to you, Andy. Would you like to give a summation?
Yes.
Before we open questions?
That's right. Yeah, with pleasure. So let me just start by once again expressing my thanks to Angela, Ed, and Maria for what you've said. I know it's not an easy thing to do, to come here and tell those personal stories in the way you have. You all did it really honourably, honestly. And Angela, I feel for you sitting there all those hours, day after day, when others were doing other things. But I so hope that there is at least some optimism at the end of the rainbow for you in terms of the energy you've put into re-establishing yourself, because that must have been very, very difficult. I do appreciate that. Thank you. And for Maria and Ed, I know your business is hanging the balance, and that was also very hard, I'm sure, for you to talk about, given all the energy that you've put into it over time. And in a sense, though, it's the fact they hang in the balance that leads me to what I really wanted to say, other than the thanks, which is I do really believe that we've got to make the case to the Treasury one more time, two more times, to win this argument, because the Chancellor always talks about supporting viable businesses. And what you two have both demonstrated really clearly, and I'm sure Angela would have said the same before the pandemic struck as well, is that there's no question your businesses were viable. And Maria, your sector, I know, has taken a terrible pounding in this. And as Paul acknowledged, I've tried to take the plight of your sector, huge employer in the West Midlands, it is, Gina, the exhibition conference sector. We have market leadership there, really big, important sector. We've tried to take it to Treasury, but thus far we've not won special support for that sector at all. So it's been a battle that I can talk about, you can feel, over the last 10 months. But the purpose of tonight is for us to say again, we will redouble the effort to make the case that your businesses are worthy of fighting for, And the fairness case does mean that you should get the same consideration as others have got. And that is what I hope will be achieved in the very thoughtful piece that you've put around the DIS proposal. I know you worked very hard, Gina, to make sure it met all the Treasury's requirements, and we all understand there has to be a bit of care and about how they put that together. But I genuinely think, and I'm no expert on taxation, but I genuinely think that you met the requirements. So I hope that you do get that positive response from government. But once again, thank you, because it's real stories that bring it to life. And I just wish, in a sense, that those in Treasury judging this could hear all the real stories. Thank you, Gina. So I think that's all we had lined up, and miraculously, we are dead on time. So that's a great tribute to all the speakers then. And I'm very happy now to take any questions from the journalists who are with us. So let me just nudge, I think, Delphine from the FT, would you like to go first? Oh, Delphine's just dropped off. I know she was there, in which case we will go to Phoebe from Free Radio, because I know you will probably want to ask a question.
Good evening, everyone. How important is furlough in making sure that people remain in their jobs in the long term, so in the next 6 to 12 months?
Okay, well, I will give a view, but then I'll throw it open to others as well. And I'm sure Gina would like to comment, but anybody can. So furlough is mission critical, and we know furlough has done a good job. We still have 200,000 people across the West Midlands who are on furlough. It's well down on where it was last summer, but who knows? But the judgment must be that many of those people would be unemployed if furlough had not been continued. So it is, I think the phrase mission critical is a good one to quote, but it is not the full answer, because what we're hearing from tonight is some people who can't furlough themselves, just as Angela said right at the beginning. So the argument here is, critical as it is not the full answer for people who are in the employment status that the three people we've heard from tonight represent. But Gina, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would say that you hit the nail on the head there, because if you're an owner-director of a business, ceasing working in your business, which furlough requires you to do, you can't answer the phone, you can't respond to an opportunity to tender for business, you've got to completely mothball your business essentially to furlough yourself as the director. They're kind of mutually exclusive. If your business is unable to operate, you may take the opportunity to furlough. But personally, from campaigning, I know thousands of directors who have taken the really tough decision to essentially turn their back on the small amount of furlough pay they could receive, because they don't feel furlough is an option, because it would just be the death knell for their business. Their business would just simply disappear if they weren't actively trying anything they could to pivot or grow the business through this time. So for the employees, furlough is absolutely incredibly important. But as soon as it ends, we know again from our own research that some of those jobs just may not be sustainable, because the owner directors haven't been supported through this time and the businesses are in trouble.
Sorry, anybody else like to contribute? I think, no, you've got a clear answer to that then, Phoebe. Anything you want to come back with, Phoebe?
Yeah, there's something that we've been looking at today, which is in regards to how those on maternity leave over the last 3 years are actually receiving less money, which has now been taken to the High Court. I was wondering if anyone had anything to say about this or have actually experienced this issue.
Okay, let me throw it open. Has anyone experienced this? Gina is looking as though she wishes to talk about this.
Personally, no. My children were both born when I was still in corporate employment. So as a business owner, no personal experience, but I have spoken to many people who have found that actually these people tend to not be, the people I've spoken to tend to be more eligible for the SAYS grant, because the 50-50 rule for the self-employed grant is an average of the last 3 years for some. So if they've taken a period of maternity leave within that 3-year period, it can mean they're ineligible for the SAYS grant because it can affect the 50-50 rule. So they could have had more of their income coming from employment than self-employment because the maternity pay has reduced the amount they earn through their self-employment, thereby meaning they're ineligible for the grant. And I have spoken to a lot of people who have fallen foul of that. And I think that's why I guess it's gone to court, because it is essentially sexism, discrimination, against people who've taken parental leave. So yes.
There you are. That's an original question, Phoebe. Thank you. Anything
Thank
else?
you.
And thank you. So let me see. Are there any other journalists who want to ask a question? I don't necessarily think there are. I was certainly hoping the FT would be here. I'm sorry that they listened to you all and then they dropped off just as we came to questions. So you could be famous in the FT tomorrow, basically. So there we are. In which case, if there aren't any more questions, I think I'm going to just let Gina see if she wants to say any last words.
I just would like to thank you for taking the time to have us here and to discuss the issues with us, both yourself, Andy, and Paul. The West Midlands as a region, I think when you look at the statistics economically, I think this is going to be very tough in your region. And particularly when events is such a big part of your economy, the events industry, and actually the co-founder of Forgotten Limited, Philippa Lurcock, is in the exhibitions and events industry. So I understand that quite well, the devastation that's going on there. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for allowing us to talk about this through the prism of the West Midlands and how it will affect your region. And thank you for your support. And thank you to our case studies, most importantly, so Maria, Ed, and Angela.
Because what we've done is tiny compared to the campaign that you have run. So you should be incredibly proud of what you've done. I'm sure everybody's very grateful to you, and good luck in what you're doing. Most importantly, good luck to Maria, Angela, and Ed in fighting your fights. Good. Every time I see a truck with advertising, then I shall think of you in the future then, Ed, after this. Yeah. Okay.
120 to spot.
Sorry?
There's over 120 to spot.
Really? Okay. Excellent. We'll conclude there then. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Andy.
Bye.